Hey everybody, I'm back with another collection video, but it's not going to be a movie collection. Well, technically, but my movie soundtracks. So if you've been following me for the past couple months, I've been recently collecting a bunch of movie soundtracks, and this is going to be a bit of a more smaller video considering the amount I have. Of course, you see in some of my most recent ones too, with my most recent update. Thank you for tuning into that. I believe it was like a week ago, so I'm I've been wanting to do this for quite a while since I have quite a couple now and I wanted to show them off. So let's not waste any more time and get it over with. So we're going to start off with the live action stuff first, and I only have two of them under that. So let's start off with this one. Good Morning Vietnam. If any of you guys know, this is one of my favorite comedies of all time. One of my favorites, starring Robin Williams, of course. This is probably the oldest soundtrack I own. This came out sometime in the late 80s, 1988, according to the top. And this was released by AM Records. Of course, this was for the movie Good Morning Vietnam from 1987, I believe. It's a great soundtrack, full of great licensed music. Um, Riding Around, What a Wonderful World, California Sun. I Gotcha, I Feel Good by the Man, James Brown. It's great. And here is the disc. And as for the insert here, it's not really much. It's just showing the credits. And again, the music that's on here. Actually, let me see. Okay, now I thought I noticed something, but even regardless, I must stress, I recommend you guys watch Good Morning Vietnam. It's a great movie. And the other live action movie I have is Forrest Gump the soundtrack. 32 American classics on 2 CDs. This was released by Epic Soundtracks around the same time as the movie in 1994. Um, this Forrest Gump is one of the few movies I own almost every version of. I own the soundtrack, but I own the VHS, the 2 disc DVD, as well as the Blu-ray. And not only does this contain the entirety of Forrest Gump's soundtrack, but also contains all the licensed songs that have been featured in the movie. Mrs. Robinson, um, Mr. President, Volunteers, um, Hound Dog. Of course, if you've seen the movie, you'll understand it. It's great looking disc. I always love this kind of gradient effect. But yeah, here's disc one. And if I can open the other one, disc two. And of course, with the insert here, it's actually a bit of a fold out. So I'm going to try to show as much as I can of it because of the lack of space. So it will basically, it's a little pamphlet of all the songs. Both disc one and two. And of course, over here we have the credits. And of course, for both the movie and the credits or for the making of the soundtrack. And then go through here on the back, it contains a little write up by Robert Zemeckis and Eric Roth. Of course, it has these many screenshots from the movie. But yeah, Forrest Gump is a wonderful movie. It's definitely one of my personal favorites, and one of my absolute favorites, starring Tom Hanks. The Toy Story movies, big. Maybe the Polar Express. It's been quite a bit since I watched that one, but it is a great soundtrack and the only 2 disc movie soundtrack I own. So, go figure. All right, we're gonna get to the animated movie soundtracks, but we're gonna begin with the DreamWorks stuff as I only own 3 of those. And we're gonna go in order of their initial movie releases. This one you recently saw my recent update, The Prince of Egypt, music from the original motion picture, where it was the score was composed by Hans Zimmer, and the music was the songs were written by Stephen Schwartz. You probably know his work with Alan Menken for The Hunchback of Notre Dame and Pocahontas, which we'll talk about the latter soon. Of course, it does contain the song "Where You Believe," where in fact, it won an Oscar for that song. I believe it was like one of the very few Oscars that DreamWorks Animation won. Even then, this is a great soundtrack. then the movie itself is just nearly perfect. It's definitely DreamWorks' best. It's a shame that it doesn't really get talked about, but at least I'm glad it got a 4K Ultra release. Of course, that's the insert. Of course, the credits on all of the songs. Of course, the lyrics to all the songs. Great looking booklet, too. And this was initially released by DreamWorks' own record company, although, I don't know, this label doesn't look right to me. I guess I'm used to the Walt Disney Records logo of its time, 1999-ish, but this looks like something I see from a radio company. I'm sorry. Still, this is a brilliant soundtrack. And of course, what's DreamWorks without Shrek and Shrek 2? Of course, it's a given. You'll see this soundtrack everywhere at thrift stores, and of course, I might as well grab one myself. Yeah, this is the soundtrack for Shrek, music from the original motion picture. Whereas a movie has so much memorable music in it, it's no surprise you would find it. And yeah, it contains pretty much all the songs from the how do I say this? The licensed songs, Best Use of Our Lives, Bad Reputation, the legendary All Star, and I'm a Believer. It does contain the original song and the reprise in the movie, which is sung by Eddie Murphy, of course. Again, this and Shrek 2 were released by DreamWorks Records. Probably one of the strangest disc art I've ever seen, but still looks cool, I suppose. And similar to Forrest Gump, it's a fold-out pamphlet, though it just pretty much talks about the credits of the songs, along with some screenshots from the movies. Seeing the old renders of the first Shrek, and just thinking about that time, where CG was just still at its infancy, it was truly a fascinating time. But yeah, Shrek's not well known for its fairy tale satire, but it's for its music. The pop culture music is very important to a Shrek movie, similar to stuff like Baby Driver. Shrek 2 definitely amplified it though. This is one of my favorite movie soundtracks. It's pretty much perfect. Accidentally in Love, Funky Town, Changes with David Bowie. That song in particular is beautiful. I love David Bowie. Here's the disc. It's pretty much. I'll admit, I don't mind the disc, but it's just so difficult to read. Like, could they like darken the green a little bit? Like, Jesus. And this is another foldout, though. This one's pretty cool. Of course, it goes through credits of the soundtrack, as well as the movie screenshots. But if we open it up, it contains a little poster of Shrek 2, which is pretty cool. I used to own the sneak peek theatrical poster, but I went and sold that off due to the lack of room. But yeah, those are the first two Shrek movies, and they're the only two of the Shrek movies I own the soundtracks for, and yet all these are the only DreamWorks ones I own. There is one exception. This is the one from Paramount Pictures. The Wild Thornberrys movie. Yes, I own the soundtrack. I never expected to find this, but I decided to grab it just for the hell of it. This was released by G.G.H.V and Nickelodeon Records, of course, for the film that came out in 2002. It was one of the last to be released under Paramount's 90th anniversary label. It's a good movie too. I really recommend it. Of course, I bought it for the song "Father and Daughter," which is written by Paul Simon. Wonderful song, wonderful song. This soundtrack definitely resonates in the early 2000s. Oh boy, the soundtrack ain't bad, but it just definitely feels like it's made in the 2000s, early 2000s to be precise. But yeah, I still really happy owning this. Plus, it has full disc art. Gotta give it credit; it looks really nice. So yeah. And finally, we got the Disney releases from Walt Disney Records. A little fact, before Cinderella, Walt Disney's films released on phonographic records, but not under release under their label. Um, hell, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is the first ever movie soundtrack to be released and on phonographic records. But with Cinderella, they made their own music company. Back then, it was known as the Walt Disney Music Company. And thanks to the residuals made from the soundtrack, now they have more money from their movies. And considering that Cinderella became a hit, it's a given. But I own 5 of their animated films, and I will talk about another one when I can, but I'm not going to add it here since it's a stage musical. You'll probably know what it is. Wink, wink. But all 5 of these are from the Disney Renaissance, and they're in order of their release. So let's begin with Beauty and the Beast, with the music by Alan Menken and lyrics by the late Howard Ashman. Of course, this was his last work before he passed away from HIV complications in March of 1991. Of course, may he forever rest in peace. Um, I definitely say this is Disney's best in terms of musical. Well, in terms of the score and soundtrack, everything is just perfect here, especially for Beauty and the Beast. Yeah, of course, sung by the late Angela Lansbury. Rest in peace. This is a pretty basic looking soundtrack, I will admit, though, considering it's a pretty early CD release, I can give it some slack. Of course, here we have the soundtrack with that older looking Disney Records logo. I never got used to that. I'm not gonna lie. I'm used to the one in the late '90s, and of course nowadays. But I don't know. Of course, it contains a little dedication there from Howard Ashman. Yeah, that's pretty much Beauty and the Beast. I I'm probably be wrong about this, but there. How do we say this? So we all know about his VHS release from 1992. There was a deluxe edition that came out, and I believe it came with the soundtrack, and I believe this was included with that deluxe set. I'm probably wrong, but I don't know. I never owned it. I owned the VHS separately, as you may know, this and the Platinum Edition. But yeah, this is a great soundtrack. Next up, we have Aladdin. Again, music by Howard Ashman, and the lyrics done by the late. Oh wait, what am I talking about? The music is by Alan Menken, and the lyrics are done by the late Howard Ashman and Tim Rice. In fact, Aladdin kind of got Aladdin. The idea of it was actually from Howard Ashman, who wanted to make a musical based off 1001 Nights, and of course with Ron Clements and John Muster coming in to help. And of course, when Howard died, they brought in Tim Rice to be another musician to work with Alan. But yeah, this is another one, another great soundtrack, and I definitely love the packaging a lot more. There's a lot more going on in terms of the overall art compared to the original. I mean, I love the cover here, but the use of blue here is magnificent. And here we have the disc. And unlike the other ones, this is an actual booklet, and it contains the lyrics for all the songs here, along with some little thumbnail pictures of the characters. Of course, Aladdin there as Prince Ali, and of course, there's Aladdin and Jasmine. Another great soundtrack, and of course, by the time this video was out, August 12th. A whole day before this was the day that Robin Williams would pass away in 2014, I believe. And it's almost been 10 years since he passed, and I'm still feeling disappearance of him. He was such a wonderful comedian and actor. So again, rest in peace, Robin Williams. You did a wonderful job for what you've done. The next one here is probably the one that a lot of people own, The Lion King. Original songs from Elton John, Tim Rice, and along with the score by Hans Zimmer. Probably the best-selling soundtrack of the bunch, from what I remember. You know what? Let me look that up. Give me a minute. Okay, so I was right. It sold 4 million copies by 1994, but it would sell over 7 million copies. So, like, wow. You cannot stop The Lion King. Oh boy. Here we have the disc. If my camera can work, right? There we go. Just like Aladdin, it contains the lyrics to all the songs. definitely more basic when compared to Aladdin. Well, not as basic, but at least there's a bit of illustrations here. But yeah, I cannot deny the impact of the music here, for better or for worse, for many. But yeah, The Lion King is still one of the best in terms of Disney's work. Probably their magnum opus. I mean, they pretty much peaked the Disney Renaissance because, well, this. Yeah, Pocahontas. Music by Alan Menken and lyrics by Stephen Schwartz. I don't mind the soundtrack to Pocahontas. I mean, I'm not really a fan of the movie, but regardless, it does have a pretty good soundtrack. Of course, it does contain Colors of the Wind, Mine, 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 which I unironically love. It actually does have full color disc artwork, which I believe would become the standard for Disney moving forward. Now, this insert has been always giving me trouble, as you may see. Give me a minute. There we go. I always had a problem with this cover, and as a result, it does have this crease. So I'll show the reason, the potential reason why when we get to it. But yeah, it contains the lyrics to all the songs. But here's the reason: it contains proof of purchase insert in here. So I'm probably gonna go and remove this and just keep it separate of the insert here because of this is that you know it just doesn't want to be removed properly. But I'll deal with that when I get the time. But yeah, that's Pocahontas. And finally, the last soundtrack I own, Tarzan, with songs by Phil Collins and the score composed by Mark Mancina. Of course, is the last film under the Disney Renaissance. And it definitely has its fans, and I'm definitely one of them. I love Phil Collins, especially for Trouble in Paradise. I believe that's what it's called, but it's Tarzan. It's definitely I always thought Tarzan as some of Disney's very best in terms of animation, for how beautiful the scenery is, the use of deep canvas, a little animation tool that they use for it, and not to mention just everything surrounding the movie is just wonderful. And considering that this was directed by the same person who directed a Goofy movie, it's impressive. I'm not complaining. I love a Goofy movie. It's not an insult. Don't worry. And here is the disc. And similar to Shrek 2's insert is a fold-out containing, I believe it does feature all the, yeah, when you fold it open, it contains this rough pencil sketch of Tarzan. Of course, I bet this was illustrated by Glenn Keane. He was the directing animator of Tarzan, after all. One of my personal favorite directing animators, and as you may see from all this stuff inscribed, it's the lyrics to the main songs. It's a great looking insert too. I'm very happy at how it looks. Actually, doesn't this go? No, it doesn't. Okay. And yeah, that's Tarzan. And that is my complete movie soundtrack. Well, movie soundtrack collection, to be precise. Um, there is one more I do want to take notice for, and that's for the Lion King musical, because I do own that, if you know. Um, although considering it is a musical based off the movie, I don't need to really show it. It is a good soundtrack. I won't admit it's great. The musical is wonderful, but it's not animated or a part of this, so it wasn't even recorded or even shown in theaters. Well, movie theaters, like it's a play, so it's a given. But that's pretty much it. I'm hopefully going to continue collecting these soundtracks. Considering, well, there's a lot of them. Again, I'm trying to get many of the Disney ones. Considering, um, until then, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope I'll see you guys in the next update. And before I go, I'm gonna have a bit of an announcement. Coming on August 27th and the 28th here at the Connecticut Convention Center, I will be attending the Retro World Expo this year. And not for any booths. I'm just gonna be there, just hanging out with some friends. So if you guys are around the area, I hope you come out and say hello. Until then, hope you like and comment and subscribe to the channel. And of course, check out my social media if you're interested. Until then, please stay safe.